Do you ever find yourself stumped, pining for the correct woody plant identification? Well, we are here to help you advance your woody plant identification skills and remember the Latin names of all those plants.
One of the first things you should look for when you're approaching a plant that you want to identify is the arrangement of its branches, buds, and leaves. Look closely and notice if they are opposite, alternate, or whorled around the stem. Most plants have alternate arrangements, so some people use the acronym MAD-BUCK, M-A-D, buck, to remember that maple, ash, dogwood, and buckeye are all opposite. However, this doesn't cover all woody plants, so viburnums, hypericums, and others also have opposite arrangements. This way you can use the arrangement of the branches for a process of elimination. If you see a plant with opposite branches, then you know all of the alternate branching plants are not possible. When you're just starting out, woody plant identification may seem like a tough nut to crack, but fear not. We'll leaf through the details and start one step at a time.
Let's try looking at a tree together and go through some helpful steps to figure out what it is.
So the first thing that I notice is that it has alternate branching. Looking at this leaf, I can tell that it is an oak leaf, a quercus leaf. And I can also tell that it is a red oak rather than a white oak because it has pointed lobes instead of rounded. And then I also have a pretty good idea that it's a pin oak because it has U-shaped sinuses rather than C-shaped sinuses, which is a different type of oak. At this point, we feel pretty confident that this is an oak tree, but just to be sure, it's helpful sometimes to grab a bud and take a look at the buds on the tree. So this tree has multiple buds on the end, which is another sign that it is an oak tree.
With this tree, I found some acorns on the ground, which supports my guess that it is a quercus species. But to decide whether I think it's a Quercus palustris or Quercus coccinea species, two species that look very similar, the acorn can provide some helpful clues. A palustris acorn will have a smooth base, whereas a coccinea acorn will have a base with circles around it. The acorn I found had a smooth base, which gives me even more reason to think that this is a Quercus palustris tree. While leaves, fruits, flowers, and branching are frequently used to help identify different plant species, sometimes we need to look to more specific clues, and they can't be used for every plant to ID, but sometimes they're super important.
So what about the bark? In winter, bark is sometimes going to be your best clue when all the other signs like the leaves and fruits are gone. But it depends on the species because bark is not an especially helpful identifying feature for pin oaks like this tree. For species like the northern red oak, Quercus rubra, the bark higher up on the tree will flatten out over time in a way that makes it look like ski tracks on the snow. So this can help you distinguish it from other red oaks.
It's almost always helpful to touch the plants that you're identifying. Some leaves are smooth, some are glossy, and some are completely hairless, while others are rough and hairy. Like this plant, Rhus typhina, or staghorn sumac. It's named after a buck in the spring just growing its antlers.
Some woody plants have a distinct smell when you crush the leaves or scratch a twig. This plant, Lindera benzoin, or spice bush, has a spicy, citrusy scent. If you're like us and identifying plants by smell makes you feel like a dumb ash, don't worry. There's plenty of other traits you can look at to figure out what a plant is.
We know lots of different things about plants and different ways to think about things, but we also do occasionally some interpretive dance. So for the pin oaks, we do the oak dance. So a pin oak is a plant where the lower branches hang down, the middle branches hang out, and the upper branches point upwards. So sometimes we do the oak dance in class.
Finally, to be confident in your identification, look around you and understand what type of habitat the plant is growing in. For example, if you're in an urban area, you're likely to find London plane trees, Callery pears, dogwoods, or Norway maples. But if you're in a wetland, you're more likely to see things like pin oaks, willows, or sycamores. With all of these identification tips that we just discussed, you're on your way to becoming an amateur botanist. Learning your local plants is a vital step to understanding the world and animals around you. But with this title, you have to be aware of the side effects of loving plants. We love plants, so of course you will find us grazing when we see an edible plant.
Grace, what are you doing? We're supposed to be making a video. We love plants. We get easily distracted by a roadside ditch.
I love plants. Don't be alarmed if we approach you from the depths of the woods.
We love plants. Of course we stop to smell the redbuds, the rhododendrons, the azaleas, the magnolias, the roses, the fothergillas.
Remembering Latin names is one of the hardest and most loathsome parts of woody plant identification. However, there's many useful strategies, such as learning the meanings of these Latin names, like Cornus alternifolia, which tells you it's a dogwood with alternate leaves. It's also very helpful to come up with your own unique associated story for each word. For example, Hamamelis virginiana.
So when we talk about this plant, I like to talk about Hazel Witch. And obviously her favorite holiday is Halloween, which is when this plant's blooming. So she will cut some branches from this tree and bring them in to decorate her holiday dinner table. And her favorite Halloween meal is Virginia ham. So get it? Hamamelis, Virginiana, Virginia ham, favorite meal of Hazel Witch, who likes to collect the flowers at Halloween.
So you should try many different studying techniques to figure out which one is best for you. You should find some plant friends so you're not throwing out unsolicited plant identifications to people who don't care. You could play hangman using different clues to try to spell out a name. You could use flashcards or any other game that you can think of to be able to remember those Latin names. Okay, so we got gray birch. We got paper birch. Oh my gosh, sweet birch, yellow birch, and river birch. Oh my god, it makes sense.
But most importantly, work on your identification skills whenever and wherever you can. You never know, you might convince some people to love plants. Just do it whenever you're outside.
We love plants. We're looking for identifying characteristics in the bushes. Don't be alarmed.
We love plants. It's simple. Species that are named after the state of Pennsylvania are Acer pennsylvanicum, Morella pennsylvanica, and Rubus pennsylvanicus.
What's not clicking? I don't know why you can't keep them straight.
You guys, you know I love plants, right? So here's this really cool plant. It's a vine. This is Parthenocissus quinquefolia. Parthenocissus quinquefolia means 5. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 leaflets on our compound leaf.
What's the common name?
I can't remember. Parthenocissus quinquefolia, Parthenocissus. Quinquefolia, Quinquefolia. Virginia creeper, that's what it is.
Learning your plants is a curse. Once you learn your plants, you'll be that person on a hike pointing out all of the invasives. Invasive plants outcompete native plants that have co-evolved with local wildlife, and they are decreasing throughout the United States. Once you start to be able to identify what's around you, you'll be better able to care for it and notice what needs to be repaired. Our planet is in need of land stewards like you. Removing invasive plants or spreading awareness about them is an easy way to contribute positively to your community.
Well, it's a beautiful day. I'm walking through the woods, enjoying all these plants. I love plants because I'm an entomologist. You don't have any insects if you don't have any plants. The problem is, walking through these woods, I see that an awful lot of the plants are not from this country. They are invasive species. We've got Oriental bittersweet, we've got garlic mustard, We've got multiflora rows. We've got all kinds of things that are essentially escapees from our garden. And in an awful lot of natural areas, they are about a third of the vegetation that's out there. Why is that an issue? Well, our insects, our native insects, cannot eat these plants. And that means that the abundance of insects is greatly reduced. And that really impacts food webs. So for example, if I'm a little bird, if I'm a chickadee and I want to rear my young, it takes 6,000 to 9,000 caterpillars just to get that nest to the point where the little chicks fledge. And after they fledge, the parents continue to feed them caterpillars another 21 days. Where are they going to get those caterpillars from? Not from garlic mustard, not from oriental bittersweet, not from the ornamentals that we put in our yard, crepe myrtle and Norway maple and boxwood and burning bush and privet and all of those guys. They're not making hardly any caterpillars at all. So we've thought of plants as if they were just decorations, and those decorations have escaped into our natural areas, and they've seriously degraded the food webs that support the biodiversity around us.
Congratulations! Whether you just started branching out into the world of plant identification, or if it's a new budding interest, we are rooting for you.
We hope this video helped you grow in your love for plants. Thank you for watching.